When you want to get better, you have to actually experience some level of discomfort, some level of pain, some level of progress. And it doesn't quite happen the way that you imagine. It might happen a little bit different. And that's what I want to talk about today. Let's go ahead and get started in this week's episode.
Woo! Hey, it's been a long time and I miss this feeling. It feels like freedom, it feels like healing. Floating off the floor, past the ceiling. The wind in my hair, I can see the light.
I was talking to a mentee of mine the other day, and they are currently trying to grow through something. And they've been talking about this thing for quite some time now. It feels like last year they also had the same goal, and then they make some excuses, and then there'll be some inconsistencies. I'm sharing this because many of us oftentimes, when we have so many goals on our plate, there might be a goal that gets dropped. Many of us, when we have a goal on our plate and it's a big goal and it's an overwhelming goal, we might start making excuses as to why we can't reach that goal. Here's a small example. When I was working during the day, one of my goals was to get fit. Now, when you're working during the day, when you clock out, you're pretty much tired. The gym is the last thing you're thinking about going to. Even though I had this goal, I kept missing the goal because I wasn't doing the steps in order to achieve the goal. It makes sense, right? Something as small as I want to go to the gym turned out to be something as big as me making so many excuses as to why I couldn't at least get to the gym. I didn't have to work out for an hour or 2 hours. I never set a timetable. I just said, I need to get to the gym. Imagine if I would have gone to the gym and just did 15 minutes. And that's how I want you to think about your goal. The goals that you have, you don't need to do it for 5 hours that day. You could go and put 30 minutes towards that goal. Small progress is progress that compounds over time that turns into big progress. And then all of a sudden you look up and you realize, wow, that goal of going to the gym, now I'm at the gym and I've been here for 30 minutes. And I've been here for 3 days straight for 30 minutes. And so here's some things that kind of help me out whenever I set goals and I have to go through these growing pains in order to get there, because there is a level of discomfort for myself, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well. There's a level of discomfort that takes place. And then you start questioning, is this the goal that I actually want to do? Is this goal too big? Is this goal too overwhelming? Maybe I should set the bar a little bit lower. Or maybe I need to step up in order to achieve this goal. Here are some of the things that have been helping me out that I experienced. The first thing is, whenever you're going and trying to achieve something, it does not always work out the way you've scripted in your head. Oftentimes, when we watch movies, there is a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end. Because we know these things exist, we can follow the storyline. The storyline's a lot easier to follow. Now, in our heads, we tell ourselves these things. This is the way it's going to be. And if it doesn't work and follow the storyline that we set, because maybe something popped up this day, maybe there's an emergency, maybe there's something else that's taking priority, we then say, you know what, I'm going to start this goal in the beginning of the new year. We're only in April. You push this thing all the way out. And whenever you decide to push something all the way out, you're choosing not to do that. It's not as important to you. That's why I never understood that idea of, okay, I'm going to wait to the new year to start something, where I feel like if it is important to you, every day you're deciding what that thing is that's most important. You could have a list of things that are priority. You could have a list of things that are important, but every day you decide which one of those things that you're going to focus on. And so one of the things I had to stop doing in order to grow through the pain and grow to my goals is that I had to stop starting and stopping. I had to stop doing that. I had to stop starting and stopping. And the reason being is, when you start something and then you decide to stop it and pick it up later, you have to start all over again. You have to do all the prerequisite stuff again. You have to put yourself in the mental space all over again. When you are inconsistent at the gym, you don't see gains, and then you have to start back all over again to get to where you actually were before. I realized whatever goal that I'm going to put on my plate, I have to commit to not stopping. Maybe some days I could only give it 30%, but that's better than giving it 0%. The next thing I had to do was I had to raise my floor. What that means is that wherever I am today and I am consistently working towards my goal, I have to raise my floor and say, okay, okay, last month I worked on my goal at least for 1 hour every other day. This month, if I can't do that because life is happening, at least I could commit to 2 hours a week if I can't do 4 hours a week. What I'm saying is you have to raise your floor. You can't go back to zero. You have to say, okay, I am going to be consistent at something long enough. Because when I start and stop, I'm lowering my floor by giving myself excuses, by not living up to the things that I said I would do for myself. I challenge you to raise your floor. Stop making excuses to increase your ceiling, right? Every time you make excuses, you keep increasing your ceiling and you're getting further away from breaking through it. But when you raise your floor, what happens is that you're pushing yourself up towards that ceiling. Does that make sense? One of the other things I had to do was develop the second try mentality. There are things that I want to accomplish that I started and I'm like, wow, this is actually a lot harder than I thought. This is actually going to require so much more of me. And immediately my brain goes to, okay, abort, mission abort. But I have to realize is that there's this idea of one of my favorite Aaliyah songs, At First You Don't Succeed, Try Again. But it's really having a second try mentality. Most times, the first time you do something is going to be challenging. You're not going to be an expert. You're not going to be a pro. You might not even be good at all. But having this second try mentality means that, okay, I know I'm a novice, I know I'm not an expert, but I could get there if I could just stick with it long enough. Instead of listening to the first feelings that I have about aborting, let me stick with it long enough to strengthen the second try mentality. The other thing that I think has helped me reach, I would say 99% of my goals is accountability. And accountability comes in many forms. There's personal accountability, where many of us don't have self discipline enough to have personal accountability because if we miss something, no one knows but us, but we let it compound over time and we just miss everything, right? Because we weren't on top of it. And so personal accountability is really for the 1%, the people who are extremely disciplined, who have self accountability, who have things that they're tracking. They have Excel spreadsheets, they have notebooks that they're journaling. They're tracking their progress and they're benchmarking if they're making improvements over time. Now, I'm one of these people. I have a very high level of self accountability. Now, if you don't have a level of self accountability or it's not really high, the other thing I would mention when it comes to accountability is community. Community is another form of accountability where you tell someone that you are trying to do something, and maybe you're telling one or two or three people, and you have them follow up with you to see if you are accomplishing those goals. Now, don't waste their time. Don't tell them something and then they're following up with you, and then you're getting annoyed with them, or you're dodging their calls, or you're dodging their checkup. Don't do that. Don't tell someone dreams that you have and things you want to accomplish and then be dodging them. However, if you don't do that, community accountability is really strong. It really does help you when you are trying to progress. And the third level accountability is public accountability. And this is like social media. And social media accountability is a little different. It requires you to put yourself out there to the mass. Now, here's the positive side of that. The positive side of that is if you are consistently documenting your journey online, you get other people rooting and cheering you on. You get other people watching your journey, which that may inspire you to be more consistent in updating your community of people, whether they're your friends, whether they're strangers, that corner of the internet that's really as inspired and as energized about your goals as much as you are. Now, there are negative sides of obviously having public accountability. There are naysayers, there are going to be haters, etc. But for some people, public social media accountability really helps them. It allows them to move forward faster. And so when we think about growth, it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to make you feel good all the time. It's not when you want to do it is when it happens. It's when you do it consistently enough and then one day you look up and you realize just how good you've gotten. And so I want you to think about something that you're trying to achieve, and I want you to set in place a strategy in order to get there. Some of the things that we talked about in this episode. And then what I want you to do, once you do that, share it with me. Feel free to reach out to me on social media, DM me. Now, it might take me a little bit to get back to you, but DM me and let me know what those things are that you're trying to accomplish. But that's all I have for you, and I look forward to seeing you during next week's episode. All right, see you later.
It's been a long time and I miss this feeling. It feels like freedom, it feels like healing. Floating off the floor, past the ceiling. The wind in my hair, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel as I'm taking flight. Man, I'm feeling like myself again. Hey, man, I'm feeling like myself again. It's been a long time and I miss this feeling.